Hi everyone, this is Marcus Fairs broadcasting live from the Dezeen studio in London. Today we're discussing the impact of Danish design around the world, and I'm delighted to be able to introduce the CEO of Carl Hansen Son, Knud Erik Hansen, who's the grandson of the founder of Carl Hansen Son. Hi there, Erik.
Hello, hello Marcus, how are you?
Good to meet you. Great, delighted to be able to talk to you about the impact that Danish design, and particularly the impact that your company has had on design around the world and has helped spread Danish design to everyone.
Yes, it's becoming. That's correct.
And there's lots of reasons why we're doing this talk, but also it's because you have a key birthday coming up. You're going to be celebrating your 70th birthday on the 21st of December. So an advanced happy birthday.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
We're looking forward to seeing the story of how your grandfather and then your father and your family helped to build this brand. But first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your involvement in the company? How long have you been involved?
I have actually only been directly involved since 2002. I took over the business from my brother, and I actually worked in shipping for 26 years, and were posted both to South Africa, Singapore, Hong Kong, China, and then ended up in Hamburg. So I worked with container shipping, and had nothing to do with furniture. But the first 18 years, of course, of my life, I grew up next to the factory. We lived right next to the factory, so I was there every day. But in that period of 26 years, I didn't have much to do with furniture. But then I got back, and my brother wanted to go on pension, and I had a word with my wife, and we agreed that we should take over the shares. And at that time, it was a relatively small company with about 20 people.
So you're responsible in a way for, what would this be, the second or the third wave of the company's expansion and distribution around the world.
Yes.
I'm sure you've got lots of great stories to tell about design and designers. We'll come back to that later. But first of all, tell me a little bit about where you are. Are you at the headquarters and whereabouts are you at the moment?
We have all the time been producing furniture in Denmark, and produced it in Funen Island, which is a little island in the middle of Denmark, and very centrally located in Denmark, and with a very good access to the whole of Denmark, and of course also to the southern, down to Europe, the rest of Europe. But I took over in 2002, and then I really got involved. And today I'm at my third factory, so a lot have happened since 2002.
And you're sitting in a very well composed scenography there, and behind you on the wall and also on the floor is probably, for most people, the most famous product that Carl Hansen Son produces, the Wishbone chair. Tell us a little bit about first of all the picture behind you. Who's the woman holding the chair?
Well, the woman, I don't have her name, but she did a series of pictures which was ordered by my dad in around 1957. And he was the chairman of the Danish Export Association for furniture through the whole of the 50s and early part of the 60s. And he traveled all over the world to promote Danish furniture, and to catch, can you see a little of the eye? He had this beautiful girl posing in the chairs, and I think it was very effective. Here recently we found some of these pictures at a dealer in Denmark, and it's funny because all the pictures that are taken, which at that time was produced by somebody else, is today produced by Carl Hansen Son.
So I guess part of the success story is not only the great furniture design, but the clever marketing as well.
Absolutely, that's necessary.
Okay, we'd love to hear the story of the company in your own words. Do you want to share your screen now and
Sure.
Give us your presentation, and then we'll have a discussion later?
Certainly. This is my grandfather. This is Carl Hansen, who started his company in October 1908. He was a carpenter by trade, and he analyzed himself how he could best support a big family. His own father wasn't very good at that, so that was important for him. And he came to the conclusion that the best way was to make his own business and start for himself. And he did. And he was a very kind man, a positive man. And his business idea, his objective was to produce very high quality furniture and sell them at a decent price. And that meant that the customers would come back to him again. And that was exactly what happened. So he had actually quite a successful business. He started in the center of Odense with this little shop you see there, and he had his workshop behind. The only problem he had at that time was the fire brigade, because what he did was, of course, causing a heavy fire hazard. So he was moved around in Odense, in the city, quite a lot. And at the end, he moved outside Odense and built his factory in 1934. This is a picture from that factory, which was extended a few times. And here you see the weavers weaving the chairs. We are still weaving in exactly the same way. This is handwork. It is craftsmen standing there weaving chairs, and the chair in front is the CH25, and it takes about 11 hours to do the chair. So it's a beautiful chair when it's finished. Also a Wegner chair. This picture is from our 50 years anniversary. It was the only picture that was taken by where you can see the three generations. Out to the right is my mother, and then you see Carl Hansen, and then comes my father. His name was Holger, and then you can think who the last one is. That is me. And this is from 1958, where we had breakfast together with all the employees up at the weaving hall, as you can see. The chairs are in the back. Most of them are still in production. My dad was a very hard-working person. He was also realizing that if he wanted any success, he should collect contacts around in the world, and he did and traveled a lot, and he was a real hard-working person. That was resulting, of course, in too little sleep and too much traveling. And he had, unfortunately, in February 2062, he got a heart attack and died, only 50 years old. And my mother, who was a housewife, had never had anything to do with the factory. She was then in a tremendous problem. What should she do? We stood with the factory with about 100 people employed, and exporting and in a very fast progress. And of course, she had no clue how the business was running. She knew that it was doing relatively well, but had no other information. So the next morning, after my dad died in the evening, she had to pull herself together and find out what to do. Outside the door was all the creditors standing. They were already there to try and get their money. It was a one-man show. It was not a limited company. So it was very hard because they all wanted their money. And I think that very few companies can pay out all creditors in one go, and we weren't able to do it either. So luckily, my dad had some connections. He was actually at the board of one of the big banks in Denmark, and the bank director came, and he knew that my dad had some very large life insurances because he traveled by air a lot, and at that time that was connected with some risk. So he had actually life insured himself very high, and that was what the bank knew, and they took the insurance policies, and on the basis of that they paid the creditors, and then we were of course standing behind there and were totally empty for money. That was a very hard situation for my mom. Not only had she lost her husband, but she also looked like she would lose the business, and my brother and I could not take over the business. She again took a decision a couple of days later and mentioned that she wanted to try and see if she could continue. And this is 1962, and at that time there were hardly any women, at least in Denmark, that owned a business on her own. And but she did. She started up. She had no formal education. She didn't speak any foreign languages, and we went to fairs where she tried to sell the furniture, and she was very energetic and very enthusiastic, but she didn't speak any other language than Danish. And that ended up that, of course, she spoke to Americans, to French, to Germans, to British in Danish, and they didn't understand a word of what she said, but her body language and her enthusiasm made them buy the furniture. And so she actually made it quite well until she could afford to start employing people that had the knowledge of English and German and so on, and we could start market the furniture in a little bit more professional way. But she did for a while sell the whole thing on her own. Afterwards, when my brother got into the business, then of course she semi-retired. This was in 1982 that he got in. So she ran the business for 20 years, which today we are very, very grateful for, because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to take over the business. My brother is a person that is quite different from what I am. He didn't want to invest, and he didn't want to enlarge the business. So in a very young age, I realized I probably can't run a business together with him, because I had different ideas. And so I went into a different company, as I mentioned, and I was in shipping for many years, and have had a fantastic life living in the Far East and doing business there, which is quite a good school. But I went back in the late part of the 1990s, and I became the managing director of Tempur-Pedic, the mattress company, which I think many of you know. They were at that time all made in Denmark, and we built also then a factory in the United States. And from there on, I was asked by the Swedish owners to sell the company, and I did that to American interests. And the company was then can you say, managed by Americans that moved everything to the administration and all the, can you say, everything that was not connected with the production was moved to the United States. And then I left the company. I told my brother I could go back to the Far East, and I wanted to sell my shares in Carl Hansen. My mother had died at that time, so but he didn't want to buy them, and then I bought them. I bought the whole lot, and then I started from there, building up the business. As I mentioned, we were 20 people, and I got a big loan on my face in the bank. No security. That was in good old days where you could still borrow money in the bank. And I built a new factory, and we started up exporting, and that did quite well until the September 2008, when we had the big financial crisis with the Baring brothers going bust, and the bank really got scared because I had, of course, too little capital. But also that I managed. I continued negotiating with the bank and with the people that had enough money to buy the company. I was not too interested in selling it, but it took me 1.5 years, and I then found out that my brother, I knew my brother had still got some money in the company. He didn't take out all the money when I bought the shares, and then I put that's a technical thing, but I could actually book that into the capital of the holding company, and then I had enough to silence the bank, and then I could continue. The factory I built was just outside Odense. That became too small very quickly, and then I could either extend that factory or buy a bigger one. And I ended up buying a factory outside Middelfart in Funen Island. And today we have about 41,000 square meters where we produce furniture. A lovely factory, and probably one of the most modern factories in Europe, machinery-wise, and then also, of course, with craftsmen that can you say, assemble and finish the chairs in a fantastic way. I just want to show you a little of our what we are doing. Actually, to the left you see everything we produce is made out of nature's own products. It's wood, it's paper yarn, it's wool, it's leather, but everything is coming from it has a natural background, and therefore it is there are no artificial products in the furniture we produce. We put a lot of emphasis into the craftsmanship. We are an expensive place to Denmark is an expensive place to work in. It is expensive to produce in Denmark. So what we produce has to have the absolute best quality in the world. And so therefore it is important for us that the craftsmanship and the finishing and the chairs and the construction, everything is first class. And that you will see when you see furniture from Carl Hansen. The last part is that we, of course, put a lot of emphasis into the sustainability of the forests wherefrom we take our wood. There should be enough for the fourth generation and fifth generation as well. Denmark has a lot of wood, and especially, luckily, a lot of oak. And this is a great advantage for us. We use about half what we produce is made out of oak, and still a lot of that oak comes from Denmark. Slowly but surely, we are also importing from Germany, from Austria, from Ukraine, but that is because the Danish forests are too small to sustain such a big production as we have. All the waste that comes out of producing furniture, as all the shavings and all everything that comes is wasted when we produce, is directly transported into a conveyor into big kilns where we heat up the little city laying next to the factory. There are about 500 houses. They all get their heating from the waste of the Carl Hansen factory. That again is for the environment a great advantage, which is very important for us. We have through the years been working with many of the, can you say, golden age architects that worked from say 1930 up to 1980, and can you say up to the left is Kaare Klint, who is the father of what we call Danish modern. His first chair was the Faaborg chair, which we still have in production, and that was from 1914. The biggest one, can you say, of the one that we have had the most success with is Hans J Wegner. He's just below Kaare Klint, and the rest of them are a host of very famous architects today. In the right-hand corner is Rikke Frost. Rikke Frost is a young lady who is also an architect and has done the sofa which we have just introduced called Sidewards. So we are also working with young architects today, that can you say, bring the products a little bit further than they were, then a little bit further, and kind of modernize our production as well, our collection as well. So that's it. That's my presentation. And here you have some of the furniture we produce today. We produce around 140 different products, but this is a little collection of them, with the Wishbone chair up in the top and the four-board chair to the right from it, and down to the left at the outer left space is the Mama Bear chair, which we have just introduced. That is also designed by Hans J Wegner. I mentioned the sideways sofa, which is the lower part right in the middle, the sofa you see there, designed by Rikke Frost. We have opened through the last 4 years flagship stores in the, can you say, metropolitans of the world. You see 11 of them here, and tomorrow morning we will be opening up in Warsaw in Poland. That is the latest, and last week we opened up in Hamburg. So these shops are made so that we can show our products together, and we can give our customers a good service and the story of all the chairs, because there is a story behind every single chair and table. So that is my presentation, and I hope you found it interesting.
Thank you very much. If you'd like to just unshare your screen now. So It's a great design story, but it's a great business story. I mean, the first question is, how has the brand coped with the traumas we've all been through in the last months with the pandemic? I would imagine that you've actually got a lot of people ordering furniture for their homes where they're suddenly spending a lot more time. Is that correct?
You're absolutely right. I mean, we panicked, of course, in March, and we had the possibility through the Danish government. They supported that we could send people home, and then the government would, can you say, foot the bill for the wages. So we sent 78 people home, and that only lasted for about a month. Then they came back again, and we paid the government back again, because we didn't want the government to have an outlay on our salaries. And since then, it has been doing extremely well. We are very, very busy at the moment, and I think 2020 will become a record year for us.
Let's go back then to the picture of the 3 generations of the family together. What are your memories of those early days? What are your memories of your grandfather and the factory and the designers and the stories?
Well, I'm of course the last in the generation that has seen all of them. I have been sitting on the knees of my grandfather, Carl Hansen, and he has been reading Donald Duck for me. But and then of course I have known everybody, and my children have not even known my mother. So they have a different perspective when they take over the business. But I of course have been very lucky. I've known them all, and it has been being so close to the business and to the people that have been running the business. I have been involved in can you say, indirectly in everything that happened in the company, and right from I was born. So I have known upwards as a really good success, and I have known failures and problems that you have when you own your own business. And we weren't, can you say, we were not saved the bad news or the good news. We were involved. We heard what was happening, and we heard also my mother kept calling us saying we should be good to Dad because it's hard times right now. So we have tried it all, and I think that this has been very good for us because we know that a business like this here is not only fairy tales. It is certainly also hard work and some nerves and now and then. So I must say my dad is today an icon for me. He was a hardworking person and a kind person and a very helpful man who wanted to see that also his colleagues had success out in the world. And so he did a lot for the industry. And you can say so many years after he died, he's forgotten. And this is, of course, something that harms me sometimes. I'm sorry for that, but that happens. We forget very, very fast in these days here. And the history behind these people is phenomenal. It's fantastic. My mother took over the business, and I think that is also a part which I cannot forget. And here we were really involved until I left Denmark. I was really, I had my words. I was allowed to comment on what she did and things like that. And she was happy that we took an interest in what she was doing. And of course, we should do that because she did it all for us. She never married again, although she could have. She didn't. She spent all her time in the business. And again, here you can say she had 20 years where a great part of her real, can you say, young life was spent in the factory. And this is something, you know, today that both my brother and I are often talking about and grateful for. That I could then take over from my brother was a sure coincidence. I didn't expect that I could, and I was prepared to go back again to shipping in Hong Kong, which I would have liked. But his decision to go on pension, he was only 57, had me by surprise, and I then decided after all this work that has been put into this factory and with the products that we were actually having in the factory, perhaps not even in production, but that we had the rights to produce, was enough to convince me to try and give it a try. And so I did. Of course, I have known. Can you say I was only a small child, but I've seen Wegner. I have spoken to him, and a very great experience has been, you know, to silence sitting behind on a carton or something, watching him working with the carpenters in the factory. Wegner was first and foremost an excellent carpenter, and he had his favorite carpenters in our factory, and he worked with these people and did the prototypes of the furniture with the craftsmen, with the carpenters. And once he got into the workshop, he changed his language, and he got the slang that you have in a factory, which is a little careless in comparison with what you have in the office and when you're out in official business. And he loved it. And that made it very good fun for me to sit and listen to and see what they did together. And this was something that could take weeks for them to get the furniture absolutely right and change the drawings and things like that. But I wasn't saying much. I just sat there and probably enjoyed what they were doing. So I have seen it was mainly Wegner, because we in my dad's time we produced only furniture made by Wegner. The big host of architects that I have got when I took over, because I have brought up a lot of smaller factories in Denmark where they worked with these architects. Many of these architects were not commercial, and they worked with very small carpenters in Copenhagen and around in Denmark. And these small companies have very big difficulties in changing generation. The young people today are well educated, and they don't want to take over that's factory and work 60 hours a week and get very little out of it. So many times I'm phoned up by these carpenters and they ask me if I want to buy their business, and if they work with some architects that they have worked with for many years, then I would I would certainly make a try and buy the companies. And I've had great luck doing it. And today, these architects are of course, it's really impressive how we can still sell the furniture that they produced in those days. And that's a lot of fun.
You mentioned in your talk the golden age of Danish design. What was the reason why Danish design became so popular, not just in Denmark, but around the world? You had all these designers, all these companies. Many of the products that were designed 50, 60, 70 years ago are still in production, even more popular than ever. What happened in Denmark? What was going on? What was in the water that caused this?
You must remember that Denmark is a small country. And we have no raw materials. We only have our hands and we have our brain. And we are very good at trading. And we are, so we can sell. And this is one good thing. The other good thing is we are very good craftsmen. And that goes right back from the Viking Age or even before. Even right, if you see what we did in the Stone Age, you know, it was fantastic products and you can see them still today. But the Vikings, of course, building their boats and sailing to United States and to UK and making great havoc in UK, they were also fantastic craftsmen. And that craftsmanship is still there, is sitting in many people. There are still many young people that wants to learn a trade where they can use their hands. And we have in our own factory around 25 apprentices that learn how to be very good carpenters and learn the trade right from the beginning. So the last part is that these golden age architects, they were very, very good at simplifying. The design is very simple. There are no ornaments, there are no lion feet, no gold ornaments, nothing. They are completely stripped out of all that. And this is Kaare Klint that did that in the 1930s and introduced this very simplified way of making furniture and other designs right up to buildings, which are very, very simple. And a good example is the Opera House in Australia, in Sydney, in Australia, done by Jorgen Utzon, where it's actually his way of doing it is just eggshells, and it's quite fantastic. And therefore, you know, we are good at that, and combining these things will actually make a very impressive difference to what you see being produced anywhere else in the world.
You said that Denmark had your hands and your brain and no raw materials, but you do have forests in Denmark.
That's right.
And apparently you told me earlier that you still use local wood
Yes.
for all your products. Are all your products still made in your own factory? Is everything produced in Denmark from Danish timber still?
Yes, everything is produced in Denmark. We have, in 2017, I bought a factory in Vietnam. And there we are producing outdoor furniture in teak. And we are slowly but surely starting selling that kind of furniture as well here in Europe and United States. But again, in a very high quality and with craftsmen, Danish craftsmen out there making sure that whatever leaves the factory is on a top quality part. But where Carl Hansen is producing in, can you say, European woods and American wood, like the walnut and cherry, that is all done in the factory in Denmark, where we employ around 400 people now and have this 41,000 square meters to work in. And that is giving us a very heavy throughput. And again, most of the people there are engaged in craftsmanship. The heavy work where you wear out people, you know, if they stand and do heavy planing and so on all the time, that is today done by machines. electronic operated machines that could make a Rolex watch. And then from then on, when we assemble the furniture and the finishing and the surfacing and the weaving and the upholstery, it's all done in the factory and done by craftsmen in Denmark.
Many of the great furniture companies from not just Denmark, but Italy and other places like that were family businesses for a long time, but then for various reasons, the family sell to another company or to an investor, or the children lose interest, or they outsource the manufacturing to somewhere cheaper.
Right.
How and why has Carl Hansen Son managed to, first of all, keep the business in the family, and second of all, keep the manufacturing in Denmark? You're still doing it the kind of old way in a way.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the respect for my ancestors, for the work they put into the business. I cannot sell the business. I can tell you, nearly every day I get an offer, and I tell you I can never, and my children cannot make the money that we are being offered. We are agreeing that we say no, thank you, because we want to keep it. Now we have made it so far, and it's now becoming, I would nearly say it's now becoming a sport to produce in Denmark, because it is a bumblebee that shouldn't be able to fly, but we are doing well. And of course we have to watch what we are spending our money, and also seeing that we get the right pricing for what we are producing. But actually, we are in Denmark and we stay in Denmark. There are some, as I mentioned, we bought a factory in Vietnam, and they use Far Eastern wood, and therefore it wouldn't be sensible to produce that in Denmark because of the long distance and the waste that we would be sailing for thousands of miles to just put into burners. That is no good. So therefore we are producing our outdoor furniture in Vietnam at the moment.
The story you told of the business was, a roller coaster, really. There were definitely some periods when things weren't going so well and were hard. But since you've taken over, business has really boomed. What is, apart from your management, of course, what else would you attribute that to? What has helped you to take Carl Hansen Son to be such a big international presence now?
I have perhaps been thinking a little bit. I think my background in the Far East, in Hong Kong especially, has been very, very good. I spent 10 years in Hong Kong, and just when Deng Xiaoping opened up the borders to China, and I traveled a lot in China. I've done a lot of business with Chinese and also with Europeans and Americans being in shipping. So I've collected a little unorthodox way of looking at business. And when you get back to Denmark, there are not many people with that background, and therefore you start thinking more internationally than perhaps most of the Danes do, because they don't have that experience. And I have actually put people in. I have not started to work with agents. I work with our own people placed all over the world, representing Carl Hansen Son, and only selling and representing our company and nothing else. So even through the pandemic here, we have been able to, be in contact on local basis, having our people based all over. We are more than 100 people outside Denmark representing Carl Hansen Son, and therefore we are nearly every big market. It's a local market for us. We store furniture also around in the world, so that we are able to deliver in a short period of time. This is expensive, but it is also giving our customer a very good service. And things like that, besides the high quality of the furniture and the finishing and all that, what I already have mentioned, that makes the furniture very attractive and also affordable. And therefore, what can go wrong? But I mean, that has made the company to what it is today.
We should talk about your mother, because she stepped into the running of the company with not much experience and did a very good job. And that must have been pretty unusual for a woman to be running a company in this sector at those times. I mean, most of the people in the story, not just of Carl Hansen and Son, but most furniture brands, it was very male dominated, particularly in the early days, wasn't it? How did she cope with that? And what's her legacy, do you think?
Well, she coped very well with the men, I think, and this has nothing to do. It's nothing bad in that, because she could trust the people she worked with, but she lost all her, can you say, female friends. They became a little jealous of her, and there was no reason to be jealous, but they didn't think that it was correct that a woman should continue the business. And so she actually was, can you say, in that way, quite lonely. But she had her friends around in the business, they were all male, and she did very well, and had very quickly got customers that liked her, and even used Danish translators to phone her and things like that. It was, and wrote, of course, to her in English and German and French. That was no problem. That we could have translated. But she built up a lot of friends around. But I think most of them were male, because there were no females around at that time. It was hard for her, I must say. It was not easy, and she often was very sad to see that she actually had no female friends. They all left her, but she then had my brother and I, and she was happy for that. And we have always been very close in the family, so we were happy together.
A lot of the products you sell have been in the company since the very beginning, especially the Wegner products. But how do you decide which designers to work with to develop new products? What is the percentage of your sales that are classics from the range and new products? And how do you decide what designers to work with and what products to complement those long-standing ones?
Well, those decisions, they are still mine. I'm still the one that decides who to work with. I'm the one that have bought the companies that have given us the line of architects you see in the pictures I showed you in the presentation. And most of our turnover today is made by the old masters, products from the old masters, I must say. But we see also now the younger ones coming in, and we produce furniture where, can you say, they are appealing to young people, and young people today have money. Many of them have money, and money to buy the furniture we make, designed by younger people, and therefore they are coming up. But in comparison with the established old architects that we produce from, also Wegner and Børge Morgensen and so on, they are still behind. But I try to encourage them to give us a bit more, and let us see what we can get out of it. I'm sure that in 20 years' time, this whole scene will have changed a lot.
You touched on sustainability, about how the original products were all based on natural materials, wood and paper and wool and things like that. Do you think that is that a part of the reason why those kind of products are so successful today? And what is your view on how sustainability can move forwards, given the problems the world is facing right now? What role do furniture brands like Carl Hansen Son have to play in making a more sustainable world?
I mean, I'm sure it has got a lot to do with the success we have, that we are using only nature's own product, and doing it with respect. And I think a lot of people today, and not least after the pandemic here, that shows you how fast the whole thing can change. I think many people now start thinking, oh, this is dangerous, and it changes so fast. and therefore they start thinking a little deeper about what we are actually doing, and quality that of furniture, now staying with furniture that lasts for generations like ours do. They are still modern after 70 years, after even 100 years, which is a four-board chair, which we still make. That makes it also very attractive, because it is not just some furniture you throw away when you don't want them anymore, or when they are worn out or they fall apart. This doesn't happen, and they are in fact lasting for so many years that the children start fighting over them when they're going to inherit them, and then they buy more. So it's part of the, I think, can you say, the non-throw away, the way people are thinking of the environment now. We are just fitting in perfectly, and I'm happy for that. And again, I've lived in China. I've seen the smog. I have seen the problems there they have with the throwaway and the waste and so on. And I'm happy to say we are not working under such conditions, and our furniture lasts, and therefore we are a good contributor to a clean world and a good environment.
Besides a kind of growing interest in sustainability from your customers, what other trends do you see in the furniture world, in the interior design world, in the materials? What is on the radar for the future, do you think?
I think we are on the right track in Denmark, and I see also that furniture from Italy and also from United States and anywhere else, many other places in the world, are kind of getting closer to the Scandinavian or Danish design. This simplicity is now becoming something that everybody wants to make. And can you say the more complicated furniture is not doing so well anymore. We are being challenged by that, and therefore it's also important for us that the young people, the young architects, can you say, renew the products we have produced for many years. So I see that we are at the moment perhaps the trendsetters to what you see in many countries. What is starting now to become everyday designs also from non-Danish companies.
And would you say that there is a strong sense of Denmark having a strong design community at the moment? Is it, I mean, over here in the UK, we tend to think about Scandinavian design, lump it all together as if it's the same kind of culture. But Denmark seems quite strong. What would you say Danish design is today?
Well, it is at a very high level, and it is also not only furniture. It is whatever we produce, we have to produce well, because if you're making a bad quality here or a bad design, you won't have any luck, because the product will be too expensive and certainly not attractive. You have to work on all the parameters I talked about in the early part of our talk, and they have also be met in order to make a success. And therefore it's becoming increasingly important for us also to kind of renew ourselves and show something new to keep the interest, because other people, of course, are also learning from what we have been doing for so many years, and see now that there is a success in doing it. But as I mentioned, it is not only furniture, it is everything from televisions in Bang & Olufsen, it's Royal Copenhagen, it is George Jensen, it is I can continue, lamps from Louis Poulsen and so on. These things are high quality and high design value, have a very high design value, and therefore combined, all these products combined, they fit so well together. And it is a strong product, all of it.
We have time for a question from one of our viewers. It's a question from Lada. We kind of touched on some of this before, but I'll read the question anyway. What future directions do you see for furniture production, and what valuable things should we keep from previous times? I guess she's talking about how do we produce new items that retain the good things from the past while taking advantage of technology and tools that we have available today.
Yes. Well, it is part of the game that we of course are getting technically better and better, and therefore as I mentioned, the very heavy work is now being eliminated by strong and smart machines being electronically operated. Our young people today have a different perspective. They design in a different way to what the old masters did, that did hand drawings and did very complicated way of drawing. Here they're doing it all by computers and getting things quite well made, but all technically at a very advanced stage. So I think that gives us an opportunity to find new ways of designing and getting on from where we left, say, in the 1980s, and creating new products that are advanced both technically and also design-wise and in quality, of a very high quality. And the young people today, they're not scared of showing what they can do and what possibilities there are with all this new material that we work with. But we still stay with the, can you say, nature's own products and all the basics that we did back in the 50s and 40s. And therefore I think that it's interesting and to see what they will create over the next 5 or 10 years. I get every day new proposals from young architects, and some of them we are taking into our product line. Some of them we are simply using the architects to work further on it and make it more customer friendly, can you say. Again, here the taste is something that is very important, and I find that even with the furniture that is produced by young people today, they have to be able to stay together with what the old masters made, so that they are part of the family. They are not standing out as something odd. So I'm very careful that they fit into the family of Carl Hansen when they are finished.
Final question from me then. If you had to choose one piece from your collection as your favorite, what would it be?
Now, you don't choose your if you have a lot of children, you don't choose one for the other. And I have a lot of children in the factory, but I cannot pass the Wishbone chair. It is a chair that has been on top of the world for nearly 70 years now, and that is a winner, and also a beautiful chair. It is perfect to say. But also the colonial chair made by Ole Vangscher is one of my favorites. The wing chair by Wegner. The Mama Bear is a new chair that just came on the market from Carl Hansen, and I must say it is doing so well, and people are nearly fighting to get it. It's fantastic, and I must say they are beautiful pieces. We have also products produced by EOS, the Austrian architects, young architects in Austria, and the story behind their furniture is so good that they sell very often by just telling the story, because people can see that this furniture match into the part of the story. So they're all favorites, and makes me very positive and pleased to speak about and to see.
And speaking of stories, thank you so much for sharing your story with us and the story of Carl Hansen and Son. Erik, it's been great to speak to you. Thank you very, very much.